So let's give a primal Nordic roar for our next presenter, Vesa Mannien!
Thanks, Joe. Glad to be here and glad to see so many people that even we're having the last session here. But don't you guys worry, we're going to talk about accounting. Don't worry. My name is Vesa Mannien. I work as an ICT business controller for OP Financial Group. And I'm going to tell you a story. The story is about how to build the foundation for the chargeback processing before the cloud spend actually happens. And the topics that we're going to touch upon are the ambition level needed, the tools and metrics that are going to be implemented, the upskilling in the process, raising the funding, finding the internal resourcing for the project, and finally, we're going to touch down the accounting process and the chargeback processes that we're utilizing. Shortly about me, my journey, the group's journey. I have around about 10 years of experience in accounting, reporting, process development, and OP is currently ongoing a cloud transition, which means that we will be migrating all of our workloads into Azure during the decade. I'm also a certified practitioner, and I work as an ambassador for the FinOps Foundation in Finland. And about OP Financial Group, we are a domestic company, financial institution working out of Finland. The financial institution is around about 120 years old, and to put it on a scale, in Finland there's around about 5.6 million people, and 40% of those are our customers. Regarding OP's cloud journey, we started our experimentation and studies back in 2018 with AWS, and the cloud footprint there has been slowly rising. Fast forwarding to 2022, the first FinOps person was hired with a 50% allocation to the topic. Last year, there was a press release saying that we will start our transitioning fully towards Azure, that within the decade we're 100% in Azure. And currently we're running our pilots in Azure and we'll pick up the pace next year. In a 14-month time period, what do you need to have in place? The 14 months stands for that what time did we have before the teams actually start the transition in Azure and need to have visibility. First off, you need the knowledge and know-how about the topic. Then you need to have the visibility and clarity available if you're going to insist accountability from the teams about the cost and usage. You need to have implemented reporting, processes, and tooling. Last but not least, you do need the acknowledged support from your C-level. Upskilling. Just to note, my experience around FinOps is around 13 months. So in a way, in that time period, how to upskill from a junior to senior to make it happen. First, what do? You go online, start to search the topic. You find a lot of companies telling that what FinOps is. You start to see the framework around it. You'll stumble upon the foundations site, get to really the grip what is going on. Then ordered a couple of books, attended the online meetups, attended the physical meetups. But the biggest thing and the most best thing we did benchmarking with peers, which meant that we did a questionnaire which had around about 20 different questions. And we searched different companies that were way further in the cloud journey than us, especially in the FinOps journey. We contacted them, had the discussions with them, and the learnings were pivotal on the decisions that we made, that where we're going to invest the small resources that we had in hand. Really beneficial. When we're changing the chargeback process, meaning the first thing you do, you have to lay out the groundwork, meaning what does it look currently? So you draw it out. The next thing you have to do, of course, you have to draw it out that how's the vision going to be? What do you want it to be in the couple of years? The aim is that the same process would stand 10, 20 years. That's the goal. We do understand that the cloud moves fast, but the goal is to build something efficient. Our vision, and basically based out of the multiple workshops we had regarding the topic, was that we're going to need quite a bit of changes in accounting, which meant a couple of new expense counts, a couple of new balance sheet accounts, and these sorts, to get it rolling and really create the clarity and visibility within different tooling that we have in the process. It is really easy to buy tooling off the shelf, but basically the first couple of questions we're all going to hit is how's the process under it? So meaning fostering the process is the biggest thing that needs the most effort. Early on, it became pretty evident that we're going to need some sort of a categorization of the expenses that we understand the whole realm of the cloud costs. In our case, it was basically 3 categories. Private, meaning the bread and butter of the teams, the build that they build and they know, at least should know, what they contain. Then the shared subscriptions, meaning, for example, your giant racing GitHubs, the things that are utilized based on the needs of the teams. For example, in GitHub, we use the size of the repository as how we share the costs. And the platform subscriptions that are shared for the teams. In our case, we're in a privileged situation because in our journey is early on, meaning we know the teams that will have a lot of networking, a lot of storage costs, but actually they're not in the cloud yet. So we're breeding culture in that way, that because we're having a 100% chargeback, and you will be able to see the different topics about the expense that you will be charged with to create understanding and culture. But going to the picture, in our case, let's have a team. There's a PO. A PO sees that, okay, my expense in accounting is 100K for a month. In our case, in SAP accounting, you will have 1 GL posting, 100K, and the posting text will say the name of the subscription and the unique ID of the subscription. That's the key. One of the things that I learned with the discussions in the meetups was it is really essential to early on have a parallel view with the accounting numbers and the costs that are created from the cloud provider's usage. What we did is having the one number in accounting that you can use the key, which I just told you, in Power BI reporting, elaborating at what does it actually contain. In this example, it's having 80% of the private subscriptions cost, meaning the one who ordered the subscription, that is their bread and butter, the things that they understand. And the 10% from the shared subscriptions, yet again, things that they understand, but they don't immediately see from the portal. And the last, the platform subscriptions, that they understand. Some of people call it the tax. I think it's more that people understand that you can't just run your things without any fees. There are different things running in the background that enables your own build to run. And coming to the point, this is something that's pretty similar from finance, as I come from there. You need to have a unified self-service view for reporting, meaning people from procurement, finance, development, anywhere needing to have a discussion about the topic, they need to have one place to go, so they're talking about the same thing. And for us, for example, how do we limit the access? We use row-level security, simple stuff in Power BI, in a way that everybody can see everything, but not limiting it too much, meaning the visibility and accessibility needs to be on a high level. If you're demanding accountability, you must create visibility and clarity. That's a given. In our case, usage basically, basically in our case, because the transition is in its early stages, we're using Portal. It is basically within hours or within the day that the owners of the private subscriptions will see the amount of cost, the amount of usage that is accumulating there. In a way, using the native tools because they are available and they're available. And coming down to the costs, about the categories, the private subscriptions, basically within the day, some of the research, depending what you're ordering, you will have the view from your private subscriptions, your bill, that what's happening there. But in our case, we don't show back or share during the month the shared subscriptions or private platform subscriptions expenses. But coming to the point about visibility, that in a way we're creating material for decision making. So the material needs to be available because the decisions needs to be timely, accurate, and especially trustworthy. The data used must be trustworthy, that people making decisions really trust it and think they say, I understand it and will go with this. Resourcing. Shout out to Jesse who couldn't make it here. Basically, we started the building of the FinOps practices with 2 persons with a 50% allocation. And when we were making our estimates that what do we want to build, it came pretty evident that we want to build a homegrown tool for our reporting and invoicing, accounting needs. So in a way, we had the idea, we had the material, we had the sketch, and we had a pretty good pitch about it, but we didn't have any funds. Meaning in our company, basically when the funds are frozen for the year, for the budget, during the year, if you're needing external resources for your project, it is possible. There is a monthly meeting for that. And basically, I contacted the person who runs the meeting, gave my pitch to him about FinOps. He was like, okay, Vesa, sounds good. Probably need it, but we have so many big programs that are running that they're going to need all of our resources that can be shared. Everything. So I don't see any possibility that you would get any resources. I said, okay. Thanks for the feedback. Went to my boss. Hey, same thing. Gave him the pitch, showed the material. He was again, Vesa, looks a little bit nice. We probably need it. Looks good, but you know the big programs, they really, really need it. The regulation is pushing us. I'm pretty sure if you would even try, you will not get anything. I was like, watch me. It so happens that I support the CTO of the company in his finances. The CTO sits in this meeting which decides who gets the resources. He's not the chair, but he sits in the meeting. He knew about FinOps. I pitched the idea to him. He was like, okay, makes sense. It wasn't from his money, but hey, still. So he was on board. He pitched my idea in the meeting, and the meeting is chaired by the CIO, and was basically, at least I've heard, around about 3 or 5 minute discussion that the CIO said, okay, grant them, it'll work. I was like, thank you. Now we got the funds, and the point here being on the same level and having trust with the C-level, it really fast paces everything. Everybody knows this, but like a concrete example to get the pace going. That's about like the external funds and internal resourcing. In my mind, it is possible, you can go 2 ways. You can go top down, bottom up. Top down meaning you'll find the people responsible for the things that you need their hours for the project that you're running. And you can go to the bosses and say that, hey, we need this guy, could we have time for them? And there's a possibility that the boss says, okay, give him time. This is really short-sighted. There will be another time that you will ask the same person, could you help me? And you would have to use the same route. Again, really short-sighted. So what we did, in our case, when we're wanting to make additions to the ongoing accounting practices, we're using SAP, there were 3 different teams where we needed time. In our case, basically, we found the teams, we found the product owners of the teams, pitched the idea to them. 2 of them were on board instantly, and the one we needed to persuade a bit more, but yet again, coming with the good material, good pitch, takes some time. It worked. We got the time from the sprints, but the learning from here is be persistent. There's always going to be teams saying, you know, I don't have the time, I don't have the need for that. Of course, that's the given. The thing starts from a no, then you start going. Tooling. Thanks for Foundation for making the question every year. It's around about 4 different tools the company have around FinOps, and basically the biggest balloon, 57%, meaning the native tools that we are also utilizing, they are already there and the price is right. But the 14%, the homegrown tool, why are we in that balloon? Coming to the peer discussions. We had discussions run about with 6 companies, and many of them said that, coming to the tooling, that hey, they had early on bought tooling, used it a couple of years, but they faced a lot of problems that they had bought the tooling for certain needs, and cloud changes fast. The tooling wasn't anymore providing for those upcoming needs that have popped up, and they were trying to get rid of the tools and trying to create their own. So in a way, we were in a position that we weren't locked into any provider. We're trying to find a solution. We had very limited resourcing. The amount of resourcing is probably, I think most of you in this room make more money in a year. That was our resourcing for a year. But coming to the point that the homegrown tooling, it is way more flexible, it takes time, and one of the key points there that if you choose technologies that have a lot of know-how, people knowing about the technologies around it, it is way more easier to find talent. For example, us utilizing Power BI and Azure Data Factory, it is way more easier to find talent compared to the third-party vendors, meaning you have to have exact kind of talent for a certain kind of tool. It is usually in these cloud migration cases or cloud transitions that the platform teams and the developer teams get the funding, get the resources to make the transition. FinOps should also have it, but it's understandable at first, but they're not in the middle to share the pie. Basically, the investment for the FinOps category should be made early on. Why? You're investing for a problem that doesn't exist yet. Meaning there will be a time that the cost will hit the roof, and at that point someone will receive a call. What happened? Why? How can we mitigate? And it really helps if you have capability and tooling to mitigate that. And that is the one that we are creating now, that when things happen, we have a good capability to mitigate the problem that yet isn't here. Scaling. Coming back to the peer discussions, we did a lot of the companies were bigger than us and longer on the journey, and we asked that, hey, you have homegrown tooling, what kind of tooling had you used? They had used Azure Data Factory, so it was basically pretty easy for us that if bigger companies are doing this with this tool, it will scale in our needs, even though the upcoming years the amount is pretty low, but during the decade it will go up pretty rapidly. What does our tool actually do? Well, we created an ETL tool that creates us the invoicing material / accounting material and material that we're using in the reporting. Basically, the biggest logic there is within the allocations. So the private subscriptions, they're easy. Their payer information is inputted in the vending process, but in the allocation cases, it varies depending on, for example, the sales subscription, that how are they shared. And we do checks on the material, meaning in big companies, the cost centers and internal order codes, they change all the time. If you have invalid, for example, cost centers in your material and try to send them to SAP, the whole material will stop, it will not go through. The same thing with the internal orders, it will not go through. And so in a way, we're having a gate before we send the material that we are checking via APIs that are the materials metadata correct, that it will flow through. And another check that we do, because when we get the bill, we store it on our balance sheet. So we check the amount, that the invoicing materials amount matches to the bill's amount before we send it through. Why we do this? It helps in the accounting that it doesn't create any more friction or more work later in the process. If you think about product owners or developers maybe using 30 minutes bi-weekly on the topic, it really helps if you have a tooling in place that gives them insights. Meaning if you have tooling in place that usually just irritates them and doesn't give any more insights, next time when they open the tool, they probably won't use the 30 minutes, they'll use less. So emphasizing that the time people use with the tools within FinOps, the better the tooling, the better the insights, the more time they'll spend with the tooling. Empowering FinOps efficiency. Time frame. Accounting works in monthly, quarterly, and yearly clocks, meaning it is fairly hard to change this. That has been ongoing pretty much at least 100 years, 200 years has gone like this. The cloud is moving pretty fast. Things happen even in microseconds. But the thing is, where do you look the insights if the time frame is this? What's the place? For us, basically, the first place, as a product owner, for example, is the portal where you can see the figures that, hey, what are the usage and what is the costs that are accumulating from there. In our case, basically the shared subscriptions and the platform subscriptions, they're shared portions of the users of the resources. They see these on the early next month after we got the concrete number from Azure that what was actually the spend for last month, and then we'll make the reporting material and it's visible for everyone. But the key here, if you're digging into insight that what really happens, I represent finance, you should never look at it from accounting. That's history. Meaning you should always go down to the source. In our case, basically, you can use the portal, yeah, but getting a full view that what are we actually paying and why, we provide this via the Power BI tool a couple of days after the month has gone by. But just emphasizing the point that probably this is essential, for example, for procurement or finance people, actually the tooling that they use, heavily utilizing SAP, that is not the way. The insights and truth doesn't lie there. It will someday it will be there, but if you want to be proactive and really see what's happening, it is not there. It's from a different place, meaning supporting culture that people understand where to look. Coming back to the point that you have a unified self-service reporting view. Couple of slides left. We'll go through the accounting process. The next couple of slides going to be pretty busy, and we're going to go through the chargeback process and the recap. Busy slide. As you can see in the middle, top line, there's the timeline. It starts, as you can see, from the 8th through 12th day, then on the 15th and 17th day and the 18th day. And on the left corner from you guys, there's Microsoft, OP internal person, SAP, Azure Data Factory, yet again SAP and our own systems in the process. So how does it work? Basically, Microsoft sends their invoice. You're lucky in this point because we have one billing account. This means we got only one invoice. This makes things a lot more easier. So we review the bill. If it checks out, goes forward, and we post it to a balance sheet, and we store it there for a while. And we store it for the reason that we are waiting for the invoicing material which we're going to use to share the expenses around the group. Before we send the material to SAP, yet again we do the checks. We check that the metadata, the cost centers, internal orders, that they're in place, they're valid. We check the balance, that the amount in the invoice and in the accounting material that they match, that it doesn't create any friction in accounting. After that, we push it through. Two options. Basically, the limited company which receives the bill, in there we'll do the through the GL interface, we'll do the allocations of the costs within the company that gets the bill. But the other companies, we go through SAP's SD interface, meaning we're creating internal invoices based on the material our ETL tool created, and the sales orders get created, and eventually the postings get created, and the accounting is done. Is there anyone having an accounting finance background in the room? Good. For you guys, thinking about the picture, someone might be, okay, it doesn't work like this, something is missing. We do use accruals in the process, but if you want to deep dive on that topic, even that we're amongst friends here, I can go more deeper offline on the topic. We utilize 6 accounts to make it happen. 2 expense accounts, 2 balance sheet accounts, 2 rounding accounts, and 2 products within SAP. The chargeback process, Busy slide, I'll run you through. In the middle, we have the timeline. The logos represent the tooling that we use when we move through the timeline. And let's have an example that I'm a product owner and I'm eager to have my first production subscription ordered. The 1st of February, basically it opens with our vending process. We have utilized a vending process via Backstage IO, and we have a template there. Within that template, we have 11 mandatory tags. This is our own learnings from our endeavors in the AWS world, meaning, for example, to give a couple examples, that we require, for example, the system CI. It is equivalent of the ID, for example, of the business application, meaning if you're ordering a production subscription, you need to know for what specific application are you referring to. We have a CMDB background, which really helps us to maintain that who owns what and where. After that, via automation, you get your production subscription facilitated, and you get the resources running. The magnifying glass is there to tell that, hey, via Azure portal, you have some sort of a view that what's happening. The month goes by, we're the early next month, round about 6th-7th day, and you will have the view of the full expense for your, for example, the production subscription, that what you're actually going to pay accounting-wise, that what the number is going to be. Moving forward, 8th through 12th day, the Microsoft is going to send their invoice, and we're going to post it to our balance sheet, and we'll store it there for a while. After that, we start to prepare the material in Azure Data Factory, and now you might be wondering that, hey, why don't we just push it through in the early days of the month? We had the discussion with accounting, and they said that basically before and after the financial close, they don't want any more data flowing through, so it was discussed with them that the easiest timeline in the month is to have new material popping up in the middle of the month. Before we send the material, we do the checks, cost center, internal order, check the amount that it matches. We send the material to SAP, flows through. Basically, the internal allocations and the sales orders get done. In our case, our financial close is on the 3rd business day, and after that, we start our financial reporting. And here, I really emphasize that accounting isn't the way to find the actual insights. The accounting is to keep count. Makes sense, but it isn't a way to get the insights. It's in the realm of culture. Usually the first way for finance people, of course, it's accounting because they're used to it, but going to the source and actually viewing it in a more broader way gives more insights and understanding for the discussion. About the recap, learnings, and next, the benchmarking, I cannot emphasize enough how valuable the questions were with the different companies. So valuable, I really suggest you all try to do that. Socialize and mingle, socialize within the company, finding the right people and right resources and mingling with them, essential, because you can't do anything by yourself. You're needing a lot of people, a lot of talent, a lot of small talent around this topic, but you need to socialize. Basically, if you don't know the people, they will not help you. Simple. Mingle, this is the thing that we're doing here, also helps. No one of us are ever ready regarding about the FinOps knowledge or Azure knowledge. It's a continuous loop of learning. Visibility and self-service reporting, if you're demanding accountability, it is a given that you have to provide the tooling and the clarity. What's up next? Our personal view, I think all of the best ideas are always copied. We saw a really good presentation in London last spring. I think the company was called Invesco, that they're going to show waste in the bills that they're sending to their payers, meaning that they would point out as a utility bill that, hey, from 10K a month that you're paying 2,000 euros, 2K for nothing. You know, just emphasizing the point that would you like to take action and put it on a silver plate. This is something that we're pushing now. And another point that we're pushing, that there's quite a bit of reporting that we put through. We can easily track it via Power BI, who's using it. And we're in a good situation because we're in the middle of the transition, and we know the teams that when will they transition, and we know that when should they pop up on the users of the reporting. So if they don't, it's easy to contact and find who should use it. Thank you.
First question, who wants to ask a question? Here we go, Sandra.
I'm interested in a sales pitch on resources before having the spend.
Mm-hmm. Or you meaning like do the pitch now?
How did you do that?
How did I do the pitch for the CTO? Well, basically, the basic 30 seconds, how to build it for him that he will benefit. Because our CTO is responsible for the cloud journey, for the cloud transition that the group is doing. So in a way, if the FinOps is booming, he will benefit. So in a way, he's doing himself a favor. That was basically how we built the pitch for him, because we needed him to be, because he's in the meeting, I'm not in the meeting, that he would, let's say, represent us.
And the resources you got 50% time, what were you planning on using them, and did it turn out to be used for the purpose you thought? Good
question. We planned out the resources to be used on basically reporting development, meaning Power BI, and in SAP, basically, there are multiple teams on top of it. So you need the accounting team, you need the development team, and you need the technical team to make these changes that what we wanted to make. So in a way, we got time from the sprints when we are aligned from the goal perspective. It was pretty easy going, but I'd say it helps if you keep good track that who needs what and when.
Sorry, can I go next? Thank you for your presentation. I was wondering about something. I'm not from finance, as you know, but you talk about, of course, SAP and accounting. But do you actually have any IT tool for finance? Meaning that where do product owners, service owners do forecasting of how much their spend is? Or are they just looking at those big numbers in SAP directly?
Yeah, good question. They don't have the possibility, for example, their product owners to go to SAP. In our case, for example, the licenses for SAP are quite pricey. But we have a tool in place where they can forecast in a way the man hours they're going to use for production or development, or the tooling licenses and these sorts, or AM. They have a tooling in place where they can do this.
And is that a third-party tool, or is it part of your Power BI? Maybe that's my question.
In a way, it's a tool that we currently have, and it has more or less all of the expenses that the product owners are having.
Thank you.
So, quick question from myself. What is your cost center? Meaning that, is that like organizational structure hierarchy or like product-based hierarchy? And the second question is, how do you deal with the changes of the structure in order to ensure comparability of the data year to year, year over year?
Good question. First one, it is for hierarchy. Basically, when you have business units and departments, under them there are cost centers. So in a way, we use it for business hierarchy. And another question, how do we track changes? Basically, within the system CIs, if they change, in the vending process, before so that in a way, before you order, in CMDB, there are two layers. There's layers for the production and layer for the dev and test environment. And within there, we have the cost center and the internal order. For one system CI, for example, a business application, there are two internal orders in our case, and we track these. Basically, these are same for the entire life cycle of the system CI. What can change, for example, are the owners and the people, because they always change. So in a way, it is never a person who owns, it is a unit who owns. How do we track it? The CMDB is the law, but we understand that there's a lot of people involved and people might sometimes make mistakes, but CMDB is the thing that we trust.
I have a question on the 50% resource time. Were those resources that already were already in the organization, or were they new part-time resources, or were they resources that got shared between responsibilities?
They were resources in-house, but basically we didn't have any authority on their usage on their sprints. So in a way, we tried to acquire time from their sprints.
What sort of personas were they? Engineer?
Engineer and accounting.
Oh, that's lovely. Any more questions? You know where you can find Vesa for more conversation on this. Today's been accounting day. We've had a lot of accounting
Good.
speakers. And I love having the accounting flags fly at FinOps X. So please give a warm round of applause for Vesa.
Hey everyone, producer Andrew here. I hope you enjoy this video as much as I enjoy sharing all of these amazing FinOps stories, best practices, and expertise. Please take a moment to like, subscribe, click the notification bell, and leave comments and questions for our speakers. Check out more FinOps X content on our YouTube channel. We appreciate the support.